We are covering the essential eligibility requirements to become a notary public in Arizona, a topic governed by Arizona Revised Statutes, Section 41-312, and a frequent source of questions on the state exam. To qualify, an applicant must be at least 18 years old and be a resident of Arizona. The exam will test these simple points with tricky scenarios. For instance, a question might describe a 17-year-old who is otherwise qualified and asks if they can apply before their birthday. The answer is no. You must be 18 at the time of application. Similarly, residency means your primary domicile, where you are registered to vote and file taxes. Simply owning property in Arizona is not sufficient if your main home is elsewhere. Next, you must be a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. The exam may try to confuse you by mentioning other forms of legal status, like a work permit or student visa, but only citizenship or permanent residency qualifies. You must also be able to read and write English, which is fundamental to understanding the documents you are notarizing and correctly completing the notarial certificate. The most heavily tested eligibility area involves criminal history. The law states an applicant must not have a conviction for a felony unless their civil rights have been restored. An exam question will likely present a scenario where an applicant had a past felony conviction. The key detail to look for is whether the question mentions the restoration of their civil rights. If it does, they may be eligible, but the Secretary of State still has discretion to deny the commission if the felony was related to the duties of a notary, such as fraud or deceit. The statute also mentions disqualification for lesser offenses involving moral turpitude or those incompatible with a notary's duties. Pay close attention to the specific wording. A misdemeanor for something like a traffic violation is very different from one involving theft or fraud. The application you submit is a sworn statement affirming you meet all these requirements. Any substantial misstatement or omission is grounds for denial or revocation of your commission. This is verified through a mandatory background check. A great way to remember these core requirements for the exam is the phrase Arizona 18 legal resident can read. It's not a perfect acronym, but it hits the key points. Arizona resident, 18 years old, legal permanent resident or citizen, and can read and write English. With the understanding that the felony rule is the major exception to remember separately. For free practice questions, AI-powered explanations, and more exam prep tools, visit openexamprep.com. That's openexamprep, all one word, .com.